Today, we find out whether slapping on GW terrain paste is the best way to do basing. Welcome back to the channel, collectors. So we've been always told that Games Workshop terrain paste is meant to be slapped onto the base and then it dries magically and it turns into wonderful terrain. So is that the case? Today, I asked myself whether it is the only way to use the terrain paint, and I did some really interesting experiments and I'd like to show you how. Come, let me show you something. So over here we have Martian Iron Crust from Games Workshop. I'm just going to take a bit of Martian Iron Crust and do basing the way that Games Workshop has always been teaching us. So I'm just going to get a huge chunk using an old brush. I'm just going to slap it on the base, okay? So just slap it and make it really rough. Just add really thick layers. Yep. So this is what is on Games Workshop's videos, and yes, it does give a relatively nice effect and it saves a lot of time. This is in no way trying to diss Games Workshop because, yeah, I mean for a tabletop piece this would be beautiful, and yes, I still use Games Workshop terrain paint today because it saves me tons and tons of time in my pieces. So this is the final result and we're going to hair dry it and I'll show you the final result. So as you can see, this is what happens when Martian Iron Crust is dried. Some areas can't dry fully because it's thick and leaves a little glossy sheen. So the second way that I'm trying to do right now, I'm trying to replicate what the Aviary Metal team is doing. And their bases tend to be really thin and I'm always questioning how do they do it. And it dawned upon me, maybe they've been doing what Duncan has been doing. 2 thin coats of terrain paste. Will that work? So I just dilute the terrain paste in water here into this consistency. It's really thin, almost like a wash, but it has bits in it. Okay, just add a little bit more water. Okay, and then I'm just going to apply it onto the base. As you can see, the terrain paste isn't exactly adhering to the base right now, but I'm just going to do many layers of this and let's see how it goes. So I also believe that this technique would be a lot more appealing because Warhammer miniatures are at a scale of about 1 to 50, and every single rock that you see, every single grain that you see on the earth, it's actually a really huge rock to the miniature already. Imagine having large chunks of it pull up together. It gives a very weird sense of scale. So what I'm doing, I'm adding thin layers to selective areas to just give a bit more visual interest to the base and to break up the consistency of the base. Yes, this technique definitely takes a lot more time, but as you can see with the miniature, it's a lot more appealing. Okay, I'm just testing on for scale, and with the miniature on the large pools, it just looks a bit odd. This green doesn't appear like this, but then in the second way, it seems like the terrain paste has achieved a fairly flat floor, which is very similar to what the Aviary Metal team tends to do, and I personally prefer this method. So comparing side to side, for beginners, it tends to show more brush marks on the thick method, and if you're doing it consistently, it would be a bit less appealing. However, if you do it in thin coats, you'll be a bit more to scale, and that's my personal preference. So as you guys can see, terrain paste can be used many ways. It can be done thick and it can be done really thinly and in many layers. But my personal preference is doing it in many thin layers so that it gives a sense of scale, as every single grain of terrain and grit seen on the base is actually a rock to the miniatures, since these Games Workshop miniatures tend to be about 1 to 50 scale. Can you imagine this small little grain becoming a huge rock? You don't want that, right? So in this case, little bits of grain and sand would tend to be imperceivable color and based at the bottom, and this is why I prefer doing it thinly. I hope you guys found today's video useful. If you did, please like, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and if you guys can,
please support me on Patreon because it keeps me going and keeps me producing awesome content like this for you guys. I hope to see you guys in the next video, and bye bye.